and welcome to yet another episode of Better Than Before live on Facebook. I'm Dave Edelstein of BetterThanBefore.com, here to talk about all things mindful, communicative, connecting, and mindful communication and connectedness. And today I'd like to just talk briefly about the idea of arguing as a form of communication. Sometimes there is, as Monty Python once pointed out, a good form of arguing in which you make a sequence of well-connected logical statements to prove a thesis. That's not the kind of arguing I'm talking about. I'm not talking about that kind of argument. I'm talking about the kind of argument we have in our daily relationships, arguing with a spouse, arguing with parent or child, arguing with coworker. These arguments are rarely a sequence of logical statements designed to prove a supposition. Instead, they're contests. They are things that when we get involved, we start to feel that we need to win. We don't argue to solve a problem so much as to get our own way. And the question is, why do we do something like this? Why is it so important that we get our way? And I, perhaps without making a series of logical statements, I'm going to suggest that the reason is fear. We're afraid to be found wrong. We're afraid of not getting our way. We're afraid of rejection. We're afraid to appear the loser. We haven't stated that drives us to win this particular point. An example of this, I think, is arguments about money. People have a lot of fear surrounding money, that there won't be enough, that they can't keep up, that they need more. There's a lot of fear surrounding money, and arguments about how money should be used or not used, or saved or not saved, very often have to do with people's fears that they will be insecure financially, that they won't have enough, that things will go wrong. So there's an example of a kind of argument driven by fears that have nothing to do directly with money itself. And many arguments that frustrate us, that cause us pain, that lead us to attack and inflict pain on somebody else are driven by unstated fears. We're really concealing the fear that lies underneath. It's so important for us to win. This is not productive communication. You can win argument after argument. You may argue well. You may be skilled at this, at making people realize or feel that they cannot win, that they cannot win with you, that you will just persist doggedly in your point of view until everyone is exhausted. Consider whether that really is a win. You haven't shown that your idea or your point of view is really superior to anyone else's. You've just defeated everyone else personally. You've just exhausted everyone else. Nobody else has the emotional resources to go on. And what's the consequence of this? That you're now more distant. Every argument win creates a distance between you and the people around you. There's another way to confront problems than arguing. But you're going to have to make your fear apparent. You're going to have to admit it. You're going to have to be vulnerable and say, thing that I'm afraid of here is this. This is my underlying fear. It may not be rational. It may not be a good reason to do what I suggest. But I'd be grateful if you could allay this fear in offering a different solution. Don't argue with the people in your life. Don't try to win. Try to understand and try to be honest about what's driving you. Something to think about this evening. Talk to you again tomorrow evening. See you then. Thanks so much for tuning in.